Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am your speaker host, Serhi, and I want to ask you to picture a country that's the epitome of charm. Windmills spinning lazily against a backdrop of vibrant tulip fields, canals winding through quaint cities, and a reputation for progressive policies that make it a darling of Europe. That's the Netherlands, a place where people enjoy high living standards, excellent education, and a strong safety net, all underpinned by a robust economy. But beneath this picturesque surface lies a surprising secret, one that might make you raise an eyebrow. The Netherlands, this beacon of social responsibility, is also one of the world's biggest tax havens. Yes, you heard that right. A tax haven, a place where multinational corporations funnel billions of dollars to dodge taxes. How does a country with a 50% income tax rate for top earners and a 25% corporate tax rate pull this off? It sounds like the last place you'd expect to be a haven for tax avoidance, but that's exactly what makes this story so fascinating. Today we're going to unravel this paradox, dive into the complex world of global tax schemes, and explore why the Netherlands has become a go-to destination for companies looking to keep their profits out of the taxman's hands. Buckle up, because this is a tale of clever accounting, international loopholes, and a debate about what's fair in the world of global finance. Let's start with the Netherlands itself. When you think of this country, you might picture bicycles zipping through Amsterdam, cozy cafes, or maybe even those iconic wooden clogs. It's a nation that prides itself on equality, with a strong welfare state and a high quality of life. The average Dutch citizen enjoys access to top-notch healthcare, education, and infrastructure, all funded by a tax system that's anything but light. If you're a high earner in the Netherlands, you're handing over more than half your income to the government. Companies operating there face a corporate tax rate of 25%, which is respectable but not exactly a bargain. Compare that to places like Bermuda or the Cayman Islands, where corporate taxes are zero, or Switzerland, with its legendary banking secrecy laws. The Netherlands doesn't have that kind of secrecy, and it's not a tropical island with no taxes. So why on earth would some of the world's biggest corporations, think tech giants, pharmaceutical companies, and global retailers, choose the Netherlands as a hub for their financial wizardry? The answer lies in a system so intricate, so cleverly designed, that it turns this progressive nation into a linchpin of global tax avoidance. Now let's get one thing straight. Being a tax haven in the modern world isn't like it was in the 1980s, when shady characters in sunglasses would fly to offshore islands with suitcases full of cash. Today's tax avoidance is a high-stakes game of strategy, played by accountants and lawyers who know every nook and cranny of international tax law. It's not about hiding money in secret bank accounts. It's about moving profits around the world in ways that look legitimate but slash tax bills to almost nothing. The Netherlands has become a master at this game not because it offers the lowest taxes, but because it has unique laws and agreements that make it a perfect middleman in the global flow of money. This isn't about breaking the law, it's about exploiting legal loopholes so effectively that companies can save billions while staying just within the lines. The heart of this story is a tax avoidance strategy with a name so quirky it sounds like it came from a comedy sketch. The double Irish with a Dutch sandwich. Yes, you heard that correctly, and no, it's not a recipe for lunch. This is a real widely used financial maneuver that lets companies move their profits through multiple countries to avoid taxes. It's so popular that it's become a legend in the world of corporate accounting, and the Netherlands plays a starring role. To understand how it works, let's walk through it step by step, imagining we're a multinational CEO looking to make some profits disappear, not in a criminal way, but in a way that keeps shareholders happy and tax bills low. Don't worry if it sounds complicated at first. We'll break it down like we're explaining it to a friend over coffee. Imagine you run a big company, say a tech firm based in the United States. You've just made a $1,000 sale, and after covering costs like manufacturing and marketing, you're left with $500 in profit. In the US, you'd normally pay corporate tax on that $500, about 21% at the federal level, which would mean a $105 tax bill. Not terrible, but if you're a multinational raking in billions, those taxes add up fast. So you decide to get creative. The first step is to set up a company in Bermuda, a tropical paradise where the corporate tax rate is zero. Let's call this company Bermuda Holdings. Setting up a company in Bermuda is cheap and easy, and it's a place where profits can sit tax-free. But here's the catch. You can't just send your US profits straight to Bermuda. That would be too obvious, and the US tax authorities would slap you with a big penalty for blatant tax dodging. The money has to move in a way that looks legitimate, and that's where Ireland and the Netherlands come in. Next, your Bermuda holdings company buys a shell company in Ireland, which we'll call Island Limited. A shell company is just an empty entity, like a mailbox with a legal name, and it costs almost nothing to set up, maybe $1 plus some paperwork fees. You merge these two companies into one, called Bermuda Lands Limited, which is legally based in Ireland but managed from Bermuda. Why Ireland? It's not a tax haven in the traditional sense, with a corporate tax rate of 12.5%, which is lower than the US, but not zero. The magic of Ireland lies in its tax laws, which say that if a company is owned by a foreign entity, like your Bermuda company, the profits can be taxed in the foreign country's jurisdiction. In other words, you can move profits to Bermuda's 0% tax rate, but you need a way to get the money there without raising red flags. This is where the Netherlands enters the picture. Your Bermuda Lands Limited company sets up another shell company in the Netherlands, called Netherlands Limited. Now here's the clever part. You transfer all your intellectual property, things like your company's logo, patents, or software code, to Bermuda Lands Limited. This company then licenses that intellectual property to Netherlands Limited. The Netherlands is perfect for this because it has a special tax break. Revenue from intellectual property, like patent royalties, is taxed at a rate so low, it's effectively zero in some cases. Plus, the Netherlands has agreements with other European countries that allow money to move between them tax-free. So you've got a setup where your intellectual property is sitting in the Netherlands, ready to play a starring role in your tax-saving plan. Let's follow the money. Back to that $1,000 sale in the US. Your company claims it needs to pay a $500 licensing fee to Netherlands Limited for using the intellectual property, like the logo on your product or the tech behind it. Conveniently, this fee equals your entire profit. So your US operation reports zero profit and pays zero tax. The $500 is now in the Netherlands, where it's barely taxed because it's intellectual property revenue. But you can't let the money sit there, because if Netherlands Limited holds onto it, it might be considered profit and hit with the Netherlands' 25% corporate tax rate. That would defeat the whole purpose. So Netherlands Limited pays a $500 licensing fee to Bermuda Lands Limited in Ireland, claiming it's for the right to use the intellectual property that Bermuda Lands owns. Ireland's tax laws make this step even sweeter. The Irish government says that if money has been taxed once, even at a tiny rate like in the Netherlands, it doesn't need to be taxed again in Ireland. So the $500 sits in Ireland, tax-free. But there's still a problem. If Bermuda Lands Limited keeps the money in Ireland, it could face Ireland's 12.5% corporate tax on profits. The final trick is to move the money to Bermuda. Irish law allows this, stating that profits should be taxed in the parent company's home country, in this case Bermuda, where the tax rate is zero. So, the $500 flows from the US to the Netherlands, to Ireland, and finally to Bermuda, avoiding almost all taxes along the way. You've just turned a $500 profit into a tax-free windfall, all while following the letter of the law. This scheme, the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich, sounds like something out of a heist movie, but it's real and widely used. The name alone is enough to make you chuckle. Accountants clearly have a sense of humor. The double Irish part comes from using two Irish companies or one company with Irish operations to move money, and the Dutch sandwich refers to the Netherlands as a tasty middle layer that keeps the tax bill low. It's not just a quirky name, it's a blueprint for how companies like tech giants and pharmaceutical firms save billions. The beauty of it, from a corporate perspective, is that it's legal. Paying licensing fees is a normal business expense. Every company does it, whether it's for software, branding, or stock footage. The difference here is the scale and intent. By setting up this chain of companies, you're not hiding money. You're structuring your business to minimize taxes in a way that tax authorities can't easily challenge. Why does this work so well? It's all about legitimacy. If you just sent your profits straight to Bermuda, the IRS or other tax agencies would cry foul, accusing you of tax evasion. But by moving money through licensing fees and shell companies, you can claim it's all above board. You're not avoiding taxes, you're just paying for the right to use your own intellectual property, which just happens to be held by a company in a zero-tax jurisdiction. It's a loophole, but it's a loophole that's hard to close without punishing legitimate businesses. And the Netherlands is the perfect partner in this dance, thanks to its low taxes on intellectual property and its web of tax treaties with other countries, especially in Europe. Now, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Why does the Netherlands allow this? After all, it's a country that prides itself on fairness and social responsibility. The answer is simple: money. By being a conduit for these tax schemes, the Netherlands attracts major corporations and accounting firms, creating thousands of high-paying jobs. Firms like KPMG and Deloitte have set up shop in cities like Amsterdam, employing armies of accountants and lawyers to manage these complex structures. This brings in revenue, boosts the economy, and keeps the Netherlands competitive in the global market. It's not about hiding money in secret vaults, it's about being a hub for financial engineering, where profits pass through on their way to lower tax destinations. But this system isn't without controversy. On one side, critics argue it's unfair. Companies that use these schemes benefit from public services: roads to ship their goods, police to protect their offices, educated workers trained by public schools, but pay little to nothing in taxes to support those services. If a tech giant makes billions selling phones in the US or Europe, shouldn't it contribute to the infrastructure that makes those sales possible? When companies like Starbucks get called out for dodging taxes, the public gets angry, and for good reason. Tax revenue pays for hospitals, schools, and bridges, and when corporations avoid their share, it puts more pressure on ordinary taxpayers. The video might show a clip of a busy highway or a bustling city, reminding us that these public goods aren't free. On the other hand, there's a case to be made for the companies. Tax avoidance, as long as it's legal, is part of staying competitive. If one company uses the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich to save billions, its rivals have to do the same or risk being outpriced. Those savings can be reinvested in research, expansion, or shareholder dividends, which can drive economic growth. If you're a CEO, your job is to maximize profits for your shareholders, not to voluntarily pay extra taxes. And if the Netherlands offers a legal way to do that, why wouldn't you take it? The video might point out that even small businesses pay licensing fees to software companies, for example, so why should multinationals be judged for doing the same, just on a larger scale? There's also the question of enforcement. Tax authorities want to crack down on abuse, but it's tricky to separate legitimate expenses from tax dodging schemes. If you punish companies too harshly, you might end up taxing profits they didn't actually make, which could stifle innovation or drive businesses away. It's a delicate balance, and the Netherlands has mastered it by offering just enough flexibility to attract companies without looking like an outright tax haven like the Cayman Islands. The video might use a graph to show how much foreign direct investment flows through the Netherlands, hundreds of billions annually, compared to traditional tax havens, proving its outsized role in global finance. The Netherlands isn't alone in this game. Ireland, with its 12.5% corporate tax rate and flexible laws, is a key player, as is Bermuda with its zero tax policy. But the Netherlands stands out because it's not what you'd expect. It's not an offshore island or a secretive banking hub. It's a respected EU member with a reputation for transparency. That's what makes its role so surprising and, frankly, a bit cheeky. The video might linger on this irony, showing images of tulip fields juxtaposed with corporate skyscrapers, highlighting the contrast between the Netherlands' wholesome image and its financial maneuvering. Change, however, is on the horizon. The video notes that the double Irish with a Dutch sandwich was set to be phased out by 2021, thanks to new tax laws passed by the Dutch government under pressure from the European Union and other global partners. The EU has been cracking down on tax avoidance, and schemes like this have drawn scrutiny for letting companies dodge billions in taxes. But don't hold your breath for the end of tax havens. The narrator suggests with a wry tone that somewhere out there, a team of genius accountants is already cooking up the next loophole. Tax laws are like a game of whack-a-mole. Close one gap and another pops up. The complexity of global tax systems, hundreds of countries, thousands of laws, makes it nearly impossible to plug every hole. Let's talk about the Netherlands' benefits again, because they're significant. By playing this tax haven role, the country has attracted major corporations and created a thriving financial sector. Think of the accountants, lawyers, and consultants working in sleek offices in Amsterdam or Rotterdam, helping companies navigate these schemes. These are high-skill, high-wage jobs that boost the economy and fund the very social programs that make the Netherlands so livable. The video might mention that firms like KPMG and Deloitte have major operations in the Netherlands, employing thousands to manage these financial structures. It's a win for the Dutch economy, even if it raises eyebrows elsewhere. But what about the losers? Countries like the US, Germany, or the UK miss out on tax revenue when profits are funneled through the Netherlands to places like Bermuda. This can mean less money for public services, higher taxes for individuals, or bigger budget deficits. The video might show a chart comparing tax revenue lost to these schemes globally, an estimated $100–240 billion annually, according to some studies. For smaller countries, the impact is even more stark. If a developing nation loses tax revenue to a multinational's clever accounting, it might struggle to fund schools or hospitals. The moral question looms large. Is it right for companies to exploit these loopholes, even if they're legal? The video doesn't shy away from this debate, but avoids taking a hard stance. Instead, it lays out both sides. On one hand, companies are just playing by the rules, maximizing value for their shareholders and staying competitive. If they don't use these strategies, their rivals will, and they'll lose out in a cutthroat global market. On the other hand, the public sees these schemes as unfair, especially when ordinary people pay higher taxes to make up for what corporations avoid. The video might cite the Starbucks example again, noting how its European revenue took a hit after its tax practices were exposed, showing that public opinion can have real consequences. It's a reminder that tax avoidance, even if legal, carries a PR risk. Let's zoom out and think about what this means for the global economy. The Netherlands' role as a tax haven shows how interconnected the world is. Money doesn't respect borders. It flows where taxes are lowest, and countries compete to attract it. The Netherlands, Ireland, and Bermuda are just pieces of a larger puzzle, where nations use tax policies to lure investment. This competition can drive innovation and growth, but it can also create a race to the bottom, where countries keep cutting taxes to stay attractive, leaving less for public goods. The video might compare the Netherlands to other tax-friendly countries, like Singapore or Luxembourg, which also play this game, though each has its own flavor of financial creativity. The human side of this story is worth considering too. While we're talking about billions of dollars and corporate profits, the effects ripple down to people. In the Netherlands, those high-paying jobs in finance mean better lives for thousands of families. More money for schools, vacations, or homes. But in countries losing tax revenue, it might mean fewer teachers, longer hospital wait times, or crumbling roads. The video might not show faces of people affected, but the implication is clear. Tax policies aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They shape lives, communities, and futures. As we wrap up, let's reflect on what the Netherlands' tax haven status tells us. It's a story of cleverness, where accountants and lawyers turn tax codes into a labyrinth of opportunity. It's a story of competition, where countries like the Netherlands balance their progressive ideals with the lure of global capital. And it's a story of trade-offs, where the benefits of jobs and investment come at the cost of fairness in the global tax system. The double Irish with a Dutch sandwich may be fading, but the game of tax avoidance is far from over. Somewhere, someone's already dreaming up the next scheme, and the Netherlands will likely remain a key player, hiding its financial prowess behind that lovely flowery smile. So, what do you think? Is this just smart business, or does it cross a moral line? And how can the world balance competition with fairness in a globalized economy? Thanks for joining me on this journey into the wild world of tax havens. Let's keep the conversation going.